All righty, guys. Welcome back to iCoach Nutrition Radio. Today, I have a very special guest, somebody that I've had the pleasure of working with now for the last, I was looking into it earlier. What was it, 2 years, right? Last 2 years or so. So today, we're going to be able to kind of dive into her journey before we even started working together, and then her journey kind of over the last 2 years and everything that she's been able to accomplish through one-on-one coaching with iCoach Nutrition. So without further ado, Amy, what's going on, my friend? How are you?
And it's good. It's a good morning.
This is round two for me and Amy here. Y'all don't know this because obviously the first podcast didn't go out, but we got like 10-15 minutes into it, and then we had to scratch it. So this is round two for us here. But we had a good start. So I definitely want to hit some of those points that we had already gotten into for sure. So tell the listeners, Amy, a little bit more about you, kind of who you are, what you do for work, kids, all that type of stuff. Give them a little bit of background on you, and then from there, let's kind of start diving into our journey that we've had here over the last couple of years.
I'm 46, a single mom of two. I do respiratory therapy for the last 26 years. Just when I became your friend and looked for help, I was coming off night shift, was doing transports for pediatric and neonatal. So it was pretty intense, high stress job, all hours, flip-flop, days, nights, 18-hour shifts. And so my body was all over the place. I didn't know if I was supposed to sleep or eat or just, zone out. never consistent on anything, but that goes with that type of job. So I was switching. My daughters are 13 and 16, so they're not little, but they're not grown. So I've been trying to just juggle the family life with nutrition life and job. So I've done all sorts of nutrition adventures out there. If you've seen it, I've tried it, or at least contemplated it, or knew someone that was doing it, and results were varied until I really reached out and found Justin, who is the best thing that's happened, and making progress be like it should be, a lifelong journey, and not just 2-6 weeks goal of something.
Amy, tell the listeners a little bit kind of like where you're at now, right? We just got body fat percentage testing done. We got, body comp pics done and all of these things. It was awesome. So kind of share some of those results, because this is like the leanest that you've been, and like, this is the best that we've looked from a body composition standpoint, the most confident in our own skin, all these different things. So share those results of kind of where you're at right now, and then from there we'll take it all the way back to where we were before we started.
Right. Okay. Well, now we just finished my first shred. A while to get there, because that's the process. You can't just jump into a shred. Obviously, that's what I've learned. So it was 3 months of intense watching what you ate, making sure you had your spot on calories, and getting all the protein that you needed, and watching your body change, which was pretty miraculous to say. In 3 months, the pictures and the percentage, I think I got down to 23% body fat, and I felt great, and I was just pretty much crushing it at the end. It wasn't as easy in the beginning of the shred. It was kind of difficult to push forward and actually get on the shred, but once I got in and on, it was amazing. So to see not only me but have friends that I've worked out with for literally 8 to 10 years, or worked with professionally, going, what are you doing? Like, you look amazing. Like, look at your arms. I can see definition, and I can see your legs. Or my running partner saying, you're actually running now. You're not doing that little shuffle that I've done forever just to get like that shuffle. Okay, I can do it. She's like, you're actually like pushing off on your back leg and actually running a stride. I'm like, that's amazing. I felt like I was doing it, but to have other people tell me they see me doing it, when you have friends and partners and you have a work family, I have a work family and I have a workout family. So for both of them to kind of see the difference in 3 months was amazing. So it feels good. It feels like the hard work is paying off.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I don't have my notes here in front of me, but I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was like total body fat percentage loss was like it was like around 6% or something. It was like 25 pounds. Was that right?
Yes.
Which is amazing. And I mean, to lose that much body fat percentage is a big deal, right? When we talk about, body fat percentage and being within that healthy range, we talked about like for women trying to get you as close to that 20% or under range, or I'm sorry, 30% or under range as we possibly could. And so now you're sitting at 20, would you say it's 20?
I think 23 point something is where I ended up at after.
Right. So 23, 24% there. I mean, which is now 5-6 points under, right? Where we need to be in terms of, by definition, right? For women, if we're under 30% body fat, that's what's considered healthy, right? Being over that's considered unhealthy. So being 5-6 points under that number, right? And then, obviously if you wanted to get leaner, there's sacrifices and things that have to get there. But ultimately, like the thing that matters for the rest of our life, regardless of the number on the scale, regardless of what we look like or whatever, is that we're at a healthy body fat percentage, right? Because that is what lowers our risk for all of these different metabolic issues that can come up later in life. And typically, if you're at a healthy body fat percentage, you're also very happy with your health and your aesthetics and your performance, right? So that's awesome. I mean, that's such a big deal. I mean, I just think to myself, I'm like, man, 6% body fat, that's something that, could literally be the difference in somebody, being on medication, getting off medication. That could be the difference in, you being at like considered overweight or obese versus at a healthy body weight, right? So that's amazing progress. And like you said, to be able to see it from and hear it from other people obviously just makes it more encouraging. But there was some work that had to happen, right? Because we didn't just bring you into a calorie deficit. We didn't just like, you weren't essentially ready to diet from the very beginning. I mean, we had to do like a year and a half of work before you're even able to, do this summer shred, this dieting phase here, right? So can you talk to me a little bit about just like, where were we at when we first started, right? So we were 25 pounds heavier. We were right around or maybe above we were above. We were in that unhealthy range for body fat percentage, so we're above 30. But kind of talk to me a little bit, like we were like sleep and nutrition and exercise, stress, hydration, all those big rocks, if you will. Where were we kind of at before we started?
I didn't know anything before I started, like where I was nutrition wise. I was just eating basically what I thought was healthy. So I think we started with a picture diary of, I just took pictures of everything I ate for a week or two, and I sent them every time I ate to you. And then, that kind of like, I needed someone, I thought when we first met, just to be accountable to, because me saying, oh yeah, I ate pretty healthy today, so I'm going to have, a piece of cake tonight and then some ice cream tomorrow night because I ate healthy all day. But not counting, how much was I eating? How many calories, was that salad? Was that a healthy salad, or was that a salad full of stuff that wasn't healthy? So it opened my eyes to how many, things I was eating. And it was a slow process because it started with the picture log, and then it, had, you sent me the scale. So then I was weighing, everything I ate, which it wasn't something you just said, just weigh what you eat, like you weren't putting me on, you can only have this much and that much. At first it was just like, hey, and then, oh, well, this is what you're really eating because you weighed it, a portion of this plus that, and then adding, all the little condiments also uh, was, are you still there? I'm sorry.
Yep.
Was an eye opener of how many calories is in things. And then I thought, well, I'm drinking enough water. Surely I can do that, because I drink mainly water. I have like one soda a day and coffee. So I was like, well, maybe, at the end of that, I'm like, no, I guess I'm drinking about half as much water as I'm supposed to be, my body weight. I kept saying, well, it was baby steps to eye opening to what I was getting in, to what I really needed for my body type, and age. And that's how you helped me figure out where I needed to go and how to get there. Cause at first it was hard. When you first told me how many grams of protein I needed, I was like, that's nearly impossible. Like, I just don't even know how I can eat any more protein. And now I'm like crushing, like, I'm not even close to where I started at the protein. I'm way, way above it,
how many grams of protein were you eating on average when we first started working together? And how many grams of protein are you eating on average now?
I bet I was like 75 to 90 at the most. And then, you're like, you need to get about like 120. And I was like, then I could get to 100. And I was at 100, 110, 120 every once in a while. Just like, I guess was trying to repeat the day before to see what I've eaten to make sure I got the protein in. And then I, ventured out in the cooking and the buying the healthier meats, at things that had more protein that I could substitute for other things that didn't have much protein that still tasted good. And so now I'm, all the way up to 150, 170 a day. During the shred, I was trying to get as much as that. And that was pretty easy at the end after 18 months, 2 years of just learning and reprocessing how to eat and how to buy food and not the processed food, but how to get your meals planned.
There's so much that goes into it, right? I mean, you can't even, like, even right now, as you're trying to talk about it, you can't even put it into words because there's so much, right? I mean, you're sitting there like trying to combat 44, 45 years of habits that have been, built into you, instilled into you, right? From your mom, your parents, as well as the diet culture, right? And everything that we had done there in terms of the different diets that were out there. So it's like, I mean, it's a transformation. It's literally like a life transformation, right? I mean, and that's why the timeline's different for everybody. I mean, people might hear 2 years when they sit here and think to themselves 30-day challenges, 21-day challenges, whatever, 90 days. It's like, maybe for you, that might be something that makes some impact. But for a lot of people, if you've been, combating if you've been combating issues with nutrition and fitness and your weight and all these different types of things, like throughout your whole life, like it's going to take time for sure. And for you, it was like just starting to define what living a healthy lifestyle is, right? Like, because of, circumstances, job, kids, all these different things, it's like you really had to prioritize everybody else, before yourself, right? And so a big part of this was like teaching you how to not feel guilty about prioritizing you and realizing that, hey, like if like I have to be selfish in order to be selfless, I have to prioritize my own health if I ever expect my girls to follow that example, right? So but there's so much awareness, right? We think about the habit tracker, we think about MyFitnessPal and tracking our calories and different things like that. All that awareness, right, created change, right? And the education and the tools, right, that you've been able to, develop as a skill set over the last 2 years. I mean, this is what now you take with you, right, as you move forward for the rest of your life. It's that no longer being like, oh, I don't know what's wrong with me, I just need to go hop on the diet of the week. It's like, if you ever feel like we're out of sync again, it's like, okay, well, you have the education, right? The tools that you need to start tracking again, to bring you the accountability that you need, right, to start taking action on whatever changes that need to be made. And if you're using a habit tracker or MyFitnessPal and you're not getting the results, or you're not staying consistent, same discipline or whatever, then you need a whole nother level of accountability, maybe in like a one-on-one coach, right? But I think that's the the biggest, like if I could sum it up into one word in terms of what I just heard from you, was just that awareness, right? That awareness piece. Because if you're not tracking, you're not going to change, because you're going to tell yourself the story, like you said earlier, of, oh yeah, I ate healthy last week, right? Like if we got on a coaching call every week and we weren't using these tracking tools, and I was like, hey, Amy, how did the last week go? You'd be like, oh, it was good. I ate healthy. We would have nothing to look at, right? We would have no data to assess. And therefore, we probably really wouldn't get that great of results, right? So awareness precedes change. Awareness is the most important aspect to develop if you're struggling with, trying to accomplish whatever goal that you're trying to work towards. But I'll stop talking here in a second because I know I'm ranting. But one of my mentors, he mentioned this recently, which I love. He said, if you're stuck right now, and this could be in any area of life, maybe it's with weight loss. If you're stuck right now, there is either a skill, a belief, or a trait that you are lacking, right? And if you think to yourself in the beginning of the journey before we started working together, right, there was probably a combination of all three of those, right, that were missing, right? And that mindset and developing that is not something that happens in 30 days. It's something that happens through going through different seasons of life and different challenges that come up along the way. Because the last 2 years, you haven't, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you've had a lot of other things to focus on in life as well, other than just this, right?
A little. Like, a pandemic happened.
Yeah.
Weights, trying to find a gym that was open. We went through that phase of there's no open. What are we all gonna do? Here in Texas, we had an ice storm for 2 weeks, and what are we going to eat? We can't even drive our car. It was an interesting last 2 years at least. And then some. Yeah. Not only typical stuff, but those are some big stuff that you don't really plan to happen, which we're still living through the pandemic. So that's a little, stressed for sure, healthcare world. So absolutely,
100%. Well, and so that's the thing, right? Like the adversity that you have to overcome, the seasons of life that we have to work together through, right? That's what builds confidence, because it's like, man, if I can eat healthy and work out consistently and live a healthy lifestyle during this, then I definitely can do it, going forward, right? Because God forbid, hopefully we don't ever have another, COVID outbreak or something else again or whatever, but it's like you're now more equipped, right? Because you've achieved success, you've achieved results, even in the midst of a very stressful environment with a lot of things that were outside of your control. But with that, you were still able to have that focus and have that clarity as to like, look, there's a lot of things that are out of my control right now, right? But there's also a lot of things that I do have control over, and I'm going to try to focus the majority of my time and energy on those things versus letting the things that I don't have control over, stress me out or prevent me from focusing on the things that I actually have, I actually do have control over there. So I think that's it definitely hasn't been an easy last 2 years. And I would argue no transformation is ever easy, right? It's hard. And if it was easy, everybody would be doing it, right? But I think anything worth having is hard, and it should be hard, because if it's not hard, you don't appreciate the process. You don't appreciate the journey. It's kind of like, I think back to like when we were kids, right? And like, at least my parents would always say that, like, if they just gave me something, right, rather than me having to go and buy it myself, right, I would never appreciate that thing as much as I would if I actually had to work hard and buy it myself, right? So I think that's where that process and journey of all of this comes into play. Like if you would have came to me on day one and I just snapped my fingers and gave you your results, like number one, you'd lose them, right? Because you didn't work to get them, right? So yeah, I think, let me ask you this. Why, because there's so many people that want to lose weight, right? But for you, thinking to yourself that, there was a little bit of weight loss there, but the majority of the weight loss and body composition changes and all of that, body fat percentage lowering, most of that came in these last few months with actually doing a dieting phase. And all that prep work up into that point was getting your habits established, getting you to just live a healthy lifestyle, right? If somebody comes to me and they want to diet and they have to eat in a calorie deficit, but they're over here sleeping 5 hours a night, they eat fast food all the time, they never work out, they don't drink water, drink way too much alcohol, they're stressed beyond belief. Like the last thing that they need to do is start weighing and measuring and logging their food and eating in a calorie deficit, right? So for you, it's like, can you talk a little bit on that? Because I think for so many people, they want to just go right into dieting. They want to go right into, tracking their food, eating the calorie deficit. But for so many, they might not actually be ready to do that. And you might just want to ask yourself, hey, maybe I should kind of meet myself where I am in this journey rather than trying to, speed up the process when maybe my body's not ready, especially if you're trying to eat in a calorie deficit and you're not losing weight, right? I mean, that's when it really becomes the definition of insanity, because it's like you're eating in a calorie deficit and you're not losing weight and you feel like crap, you have no energy levels, so it's just, I don't know what like for the listeners here, right? If you think back to 2 years ago in your position, if I would have told you like, hey, Amy, it's probably not smart for us to actually eat in a calorie deficit for a year or whatever. Like, I mean, what would you have said then, right? Like, we didn't really have that conversation because we didn't really necessarily know if we're gonna have to take that long to do it. But like, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, do everybody wants results right now. They want results yesterday, right? But I always say, like, you're probably not going to care how fast, whether it took you 3 months or 6 months or 9 months or a year to lose the weight 5 years from now, right? All you're going to care about is that you actually kept the weight off, right? So sometimes this process being slower than you'd like it to be is actually a good thing, right?
Right. I kind of think like an artist, like a painter or someone that's, a sculptor or something. I took the kids to like a place where you can paint ceramics, but first you have to like pick the ceramic, then you have to prep the ceramic, then you there's a process. You can't just go in and put all the pretty colors on it and it turns out beautiful. If you don't do it in the right order, then the end result's not what you want. So like, I think the first thing you asked me is, where do you want your weight? And for me personally, it was hard to pick a number because I really just wanted to feel better. I was like, if I'm still at the same weight, I can accept that. I've had 2 babies, and women are like, we're made different. And so I was like, I accepted that after the babies, that things got squishier, things didn't go back the way they were before. But I just wanted to feel energetic like I used to. So when you asked me for where's my number, or, a range of number, I was like, it probably took me a month to give you a number because it just didn't pop in my head. I was like, well, I know like what the doctor tells me I need to be at. I know what I've been at. And so the number was kind of stuck. And plus, I didn't weigh myself. I didn't even own a scale. So what was my weight? Well, I'm going to have to go to the gym and weigh myself at the gym because I don't even want a scale in the house. And you had to go through probably 8 months of telling me it's okay, put a scale in your house. And I finally did. But the process, I think it has to start from the beginning. Just like, my nephew's going into the Army, and they're, the first thing they're going to do is break him down and start from the basics and build him up. And that's how you get a good soldier. That's how you get a good, energetic body. You just have to start from nutrition and just consistent good nutrition. And
Yeah.
then I think that helped, get my body reset. Like, hey, it's okay. She's not about to go down to 800 calories a day. It's she's, your body, I think, reacts to like, okay, today's a good day. She ate what she was supposed to, but tomorrow you never know. She might, you might get some crazy, 12 donuts and 1 glass of water. So
Well, you're right. I mean, so many people I love what you said there in terms of that first example, because it is an art, right? I mean, coaching is an art for sure, right? And especially like this is why I'm so big on one-on-one coaching and individualized coaching, because making a meal plan for somebody or following some general workout plan or whatever, it's like the more that you can individualize the process to you and your life, because let's be honest, nobody else is living the same life that you are, right? In terms of just everything that you have going on there. So meeting you where you are, I think is such a big part of the journey there. And I want to touch on this too with your, if you think back to the history, Jenny Craig, right? And you think about, and even before that, you think about weighing yourself in, relationship with the scale, not having it in your house, right? All these different things, right? Like, if you had to, what's the biggest difference in Jenny Craig, or you could list any of other diets that you did, versus, with iCoach? Like, if you had to compare the two, right? You're talking to Sally down the street. What's the biggest difference? What's the comparison?
For me, now that I'm with you, I'm more able to say, but this is where I am and this is what I want to do, and I'm in control of checking the boxes. Like, yes, I got enough water. I don't think Jenny Craig or not any of the other diets I tried, it was, you had to buy their food. You had to buy into something that they were going to provide you besides, the weigh-ins. There was always something extra, like you can just buy this whole meal, and this is your meals for the day, or this is your shake. You can eat anything you want, but you're going to have a shake in the morning and the afternoon. And then you have one meal on your own, and, you can eat whatever you want. Or the 7 workouts, like you eat 7 meals a day and you work out 7 times a week. And then on the 7th day, you can eat anything. I've done everything. And you're just like, count it in. You want a donut? Count it. Have a donut. You want to go have a margarita? Okay, how much liquor is in the margarita you want? And count it in. You can always find something comparable close to it and then work around it. So you want a vacation? Take a vacation. Don't count your meals for 3-4 days, whatever your vacation is, and then get back on. Don't give yourself another week to get back on. Just get home and get back to it. Go to the grocery store, get your food, prep it, meal plan, prep for the next day. We all have busy lives. So if you're going to have a busy week, maybe, I started meal prepping for 4 or 5 days, and it's just all these containers in the fridge. And my teenagers are like, hey, can I have one? I'm like, absolutely, have one. Have anything in there, let's cook together now. And they do. They're like, I've always, since they were little, asked them, to look at their food, because when you're a parent, you want them to eat healthy. I assume most parents do. I'm like, what did you have green today? Or what colors did you eat today? Because they're learning their colors at some stage of life. So you're like, you can't just have, the red colors. Let's have some greens. Let's have something. So it's a good process that you've instilled in, the actions I have in the house. They see, your children see, or your coworkers see, they tease me at work. They're like, where is your bell pepper? Because I eat a bell pepper every day, and I eat it and they think it's hilarious, because I bring the biggest bell pepper that my store has. I buy like a dozen of them, because I'll eat 1 or 2 a day. And of course, like, it's in my lunch, and it's easy, right? You just wash it, put it in the lunchbox. There's, what else do you need? It's like an apple, but it's a veggie, and or a salad. Or so they tease me because I bring huge bowls of fruit salad, chopped up fruit. Some days it's all vegetables, and they're like, they'll ask me like, where are you eating out? You want Chewies? You want this? I'm like, yeah, thanks for asking. I always like to be asked if I want something, because sometimes I want a sweet tea, or maybe I just want a diet Dr. Pepper. But most of the time I'm like, I'm good. I got my lunch. It's set. I don't have to think about it. And it's what I want. And no, I feel good. Because the days before I had you, or my mindset 3 years ago, it was like eating out of convenience stores, like I'm just gonna grab something because we're about to go to Houston on a trip. So let's go get gas in the truck and head, get a sick kid, and we're gonna eat, a dill pickle and some crackers. So it was just, it's a nice change to have a plan, I guess. And that's kind of like me. I kind of roll with it. I have that's my personality. I'm very easygoing. So I'm just like, yeah, but this area of my life is now a good plan. It's in a good spot. Like I know what I need to feel better. And that's where my goal was, to feel better. And so I could be energetic with the kids and just have fun. And then, of course, I found a number and I've hit really close to where I wanted to be. I'm in the range, not at the lowest range, but I wasn't at the top of the range either. So I'm happy. I can't imagine what next summer's shred will be for me or where I'll be. But I know I'll feel good.
Yeah. No, I love that. I mean, I think, some things that stood out to me there was that, if you think about Jenny Craig or any of these other things, right, it's like a dictatorship. It's like, do this, like, this is what you have to do, right? Do like, and I think for so many people, that actually is what they're looking for. They think that they want to be told what to do, right? But what this does is it gives you freedom and flexibility, right? There's no such thing as this like list of good and bad. There's not like this meal plan there. It's really starting to meet you where you are and help you to build the lifestyle that you want to live, right? But your lifestyle is different than mine and everybody else's that I work with, right? And that's why like that individualized component is so important. So I love that. I think that, I always say like with freedom and flexibility comes responsibility, right? It comes discipline, right? Which is like, not to say you have to track on MyFitnessPal or whatever for the rest of your life by any means, but when you do track, it brings you awareness, right? And there's a lot of people that like to use tracking to bring them the freedom and flexibility, right? That maybe they're scared to have, or maybe they have way too much, right? Just because of the lack of awareness with not tracking. And so I think with tracking, it's like literally you can make anything fit, like you said. It's just you actually have the awareness around how many calories are going into whatever it is that you're eating. And anybody this can resonate with is, if you think about all these restaurants here, why are so many restaurants now putting their nutrition facts on menus and whatnot? And how has that changed your psychology, listeners, when you're at a restaurant and you're looking at a menu? When you look at and you see the calories, that 100% affects you because of the awareness that it gives you in terms of your decision-making process. So that's what these tools are meant to do, right? These tools are not meant to be something that stresses you out or makes you feel restricted or whatever else. They're meant to bring awareness and to help you make whatever positive changes in your life that you want to make there. So I love that. I wanted to highlight too on the part about kind of paying it forward and starting to become an influence. Obviously you have little girls there. You also you talked about like coworkers, and at the end of the day, it's like when you're living a healthy lifestyle, right? And especially when you're living a healthy lifestyle in a sustainable way that has balance, right? That's sexy. I mean, that is attractive. Like people want to learn more about that because so many people are stuck in the old ways of either being on a diet or being off of a diet, right? And having a very unhealthy relationship with food and with their body. So, obviously for our kids, that's probably like one of the biggest motivators, but you're able to, by you leading from the front and living a healthy lifestyle, it is now, as a byproduct, right? Just from an environmental standpoint alone, you're now positively influencing your daughters, your coworkers, and that, a lot of people don't realize until it actually starts happening. Maybe you've realized it or not, I'm not sure, but that actually brings a whole new level of accountability for you, right? Just like the accountability I feel to lead from the front for my clients, right? If I'm going to talk about it, I better be about it type of thing, right? So, anyways, so scattered thoughts from all that you said there.
Well, yeah. Well, I love your post because sometimes, I love the pictures of food. I'm becoming a more foodie person because I think for the first year, if you look at my habit tracker, I ate exactly the same breakfast, I was fine with it. And you're like, you're going to get tired of that. And I'm just like, I can eat the same thing just over and over, but my kids can't. I have to switch it up. But for me, my breakfast was the same. I have chickens in the backyard, so I have eggs. So then I'm going to make something with eggs every morning. But misconceptions, like one of my closest doctors that I work for, he asked me, he's just like, the last 6 weeks, wow, like every day you look thinner. And then the nurse practitioner was, oh, well, she probably just eats chicken and rice and works out 5 times a week. And I said, that's not exactly what I'm doing. That is what y'all think has to be done to get this. I said, but that's a big misconception. I was like, I actually eat whatever I want. I told them, and they're older. One of them's about to retire. So he's a very smart guy. And I said, actually, if you want more info, I can hook, I have the ability. I can't talk right now because I'm at work and I'm busy, but I said, we could sit down and talk about what you could do. Because I said, it's very attainable. But you have to like do the work. I said, I eat whatever I want. But I do eat, mainly what I need to eat is what I've learned. I said, but if I want a donut, I have a donut. If I want to eat out with the girls at work and have Mexican food, then I do. But somewhere down the road, I'm putting it in my calorie tracker and I'm just accounting for it. So a lot of people, I'm trying to tell them, it's not just chicken and rice every day. It's not just a bell pepper every day, but it does add up. Like if you do consistent, you're getting those 800 grams of fruit and veggies like I wasn't before. I thought if you would have asked me, I would have said, yeah, I'm great. I eat a lot of fruit and vegetables because I like them. I do like them, at least. I'm not one of the people that only have like 2 things they like in the fruit and vegetable department. I just was never eating as many as I needed. Yeah. And I didn't.
Well, I mean, it just goes to show, I mean, it's just another highlight there on awareness, right? I mean, if I talk about sleep, nutrition, if I talk about eat your fruits and vegetables, and we've all heard these things before, and a lot of people, right, they sell themselves lies. They will say, or they will think that they're doing these things more consistent than what they actually are. And that's why that habit tracker and having that 10,000 foot view, can shed so much light into your reality as to the fact that maybe you're not being as consistent as what you think, right? So, but I mean, I think at the end of the day, this is something that, even me as a coach, I try to communicate so much, which is like, think about how many people think that all I do is eat chicken and broccoli all day or whatever. It's like, that's not like, that is not sustainable, right? And with all of these different things, like even with what, we're doing now, or if you think back to Jenny Craig or any of these other things, every time that you ask yourself the question of, can I do this for the rest of my life? Right? With the majority of things that we're doing now, you can answer that with yes. Back then, the majority of those things you answered it with, it would be no, right? So that's, anybody listening, that's the challenge, is like, you've got to think to yourself, like, with all these different things, right? There's going to be another diet that comes out every year for the rest of our lives, right? But is it actually sustainable for you, right? And the definition of it worked is not defined by you lost weight and now you gained the weight back, or you were doing the diet and now you're not doing the diet anymore, right? It didn't work for you. If it worked, you'd still be doing it, right? So I think that's the biggest thing. You got to create something that's actually sustainable for the rest of your life. And for some people, that might be, a lot more extreme than what other people are doing, right? But it's just starting to realize that, hey, if I added up a whole year or 3 years or 5 years, and I thought to myself, okay, how much time was I on a diet, right? Like all in, right? Versus not on a diet or all out, right? And I added up all that time. I guarantee you, if you would just flip the mindset from all in or all out to 80-20 lifestyle, that balance, well, now your net gain across that time period is exponential, right? So that's the thing. I mean, everybody's biggest issue is consistency, right? And if you can just learn how to do something that works for you consistently the majority of the time, you're going to feel better. You're going to look better and you're going to perform better, not just in the gym, but in every aspect of a life. Right. So love that. Love that. Well, cool. So Amy, I want to, I definitely could keep asking you probably questions here all day, but I do want to respect your time. If you had to think to yourself, you know, in terms of just trying to share some nuggets here for the listeners, like, again, and just keep thinking back kind of like 2 years ago before we even started this process, right? Like, what would be, you know, for anybody that's looking to feel better or look better, perform better, you know, maybe they want to lose weight, maybe they don't, maybe they just want to have more energy and feel better, like you had, you know, in the beginning there. What are some of the biggest lifestyle habits, right, that were sabotaging you before? And what are some of the best lifestyle habits that you've picked up that you plan to continue using for the rest of your life?
The biggest one is probably just being aware of what's in my fridge. Like when I'm hungry, I would, before 3 years ago, 2.5, I just, you know, be starving, especially after a workout. You know, you hit that hard workout or 30 minutes to an hour later, you're just crashing and I would just eat, you know, it wasn't necessarily the best meal. And now I have you know, when I food prep, there's always something. I always make more than I need. So I have extra, you know, if there's meat on sale at the store, you know, I grab a few more extra to have in the fridge to have it prepared. So the consistency of always looking ahead, like tomorrow, like I'm already prepared. I have today's meals because I did those yesterday. So today I'm going to prepare for tomorrow's meals. And then when it gets hectic, you know, and it does, sometimes something happens and you can't do that. But there's a stockpile now of things that are healthier versions, you know, and things that I can go to. Some things are in the freezer, you know, some things are left over and I'm like, hey, you know, I'm just going to put a sticky note on this, put it in the freezer for that day that I know will happen. And I just need, you know, to get to work or something. I'll just grab it and be prepared. So I think consistency of always thinking, you know, now and before I never had that mindset to meal prep, to think ahead, you know, like in the beginning, it was consistent, you know, daily logging in what you're having, but think about tomorrow. What are you going to have tomorrow? Go ahead and plan those days. Go ahead and plan tomorrow's meals too. And then get those ready, especially when you work 12 to 16-hour shifts. You know, you have to go to work with all your food, because you're going to have dinner there as long, and breakfast and lunch and all your snacks. And so basically when I'm home from work now, I may have like a glass of milk or something, if I'm really thinking I need something. But usually I come home, I'm full, I'm tired, I take a shower, I relax, I journal, and maybe watch a TV show. I don't watch much TV anymore. I wasn't a big TV watcher anyway. Everybody, busy moms, busy life.
Yeah.
But
So
so
planning, right? I mean, like you now, I mean, Amy today versus 2 years ago, you are way more proactive when it comes to living a healthy lifestyle, right? Like you plan, right? You plan way more now than you ever did before, right? And by doing that, which, let's be real, right? The more we plan, the more successful we're going to be, right? But it's hard. It is hard to plan. It takes more time to plan. It is more convenient. It could be stressful. We're all busy, blah, 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 blah. There's a million excuses under the sun. But at the end of the day, you have become a lot more intentional, right, with living a healthy lifestyle, because you said that it's important to you and you're actually living that out and following through with that. But it's like the saying, right? Failure to plan is planning to fail, right? We all are going to fail to plan sometimes. Congrats, we're human beings, right? It's okay. But with that awareness also comes, hey, the majority of the time, as often as we can, we should try to plan, right? Especially in the beginning of a process, right? If you're just getting started with this journey, you're going to have to plan and prepare way more. Like if you think to yourself a year ago versus now, right? I'm sure the planning and preparation process now is less stressful. It's easier. It doesn't take as long, all that, right?
Yes. In the beginning, I was probably, you heard a lot of whining because I just did not, it seemed impossible. Like, oh my gosh, every day I have this on my plate to do. Like, and you were very, as a coach, like you just encourage and keep going. You're doing great, or however you would put it. And eventually, and now it's just a habit. It doesn't even seem like a job, but even like weighing my food doesn't seem like a job. If I want to know what it is exactly, or I'm at the point where maybe I can just eyeball it. Even my girls are like, "Hey, you're not weighing your food today," and I was like, "Yeah, I'm okay today. Like I'm good." But for things that maybe something we're trying new, one of my goals as a mom is they have to cook once a week. They have to prep a meal. I don't care what it is. They have to research what they want to cook. We go to the store, we buy it, and we cook. And so if it's something new and I'm like, this might be more calories than I know. So I better weigh this because I have no idea what calories are in this. And I'm like, oh, that wasn't too bad. Or yeah, we're just counting, making sure we know what we're eating. And they don't count or anything. They just see me do it. But they also see me, like my little one now is working out after I work out. They have a little kids class this summer, and then right beside the gym is a donut store, and then there's a Starbucks store. So sometimes her treat like is, can I go to Starbucks after a workout? And I was like, yeah, we can go to Starbucks. I mean, not every day, but we can go to Starbucks sometimes, or we can get a donut sometimes. It's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's like when I mean, our kids are always watching us, right? So, it's one thing to want to live a healthy lifestyle, right? But we also don't want to create any type of negative influence either, right? Like, our kids would never want to see our mom, strapped to the scale with an unhealthy relationship with her weighing herself and making negative comments about herself, or being strapped to a food scale, feeling like, she can't go out to eat at a restaurant because she can't weigh her food. Like those are all very unhealthy relationships, which would then transfer over into our kids, right? But I think for you, with the mindset around all these things, how you talk about these things, right? The balance that you have with these tools, right? That's a very healthy relationship, which then transitions into them, where they see something like weighing of food or MyFitnessPal or whatever, like a habit tracker. I mean, these are just tools, right, that you can use, right? No different than if you wanted to teach them how to budget and talk to them about finances or whatever, right? Like you would teach them the tool of learning how to create a budget, right? So it's like, it's just always trying to make sure that, the relationship, for the parents out here that are listening, it's like just making sure that, your relationship with this process and this journey is a positive one. It's a healthy one. It's not one that's coming from, oh, I have to do this. It's coming from a place of, I get to do this. And this is actually a very unique opportunity for me to, I would argue, put one of the most positive influences into your children's lives that you possibly could, through teaching them how to live a healthy lifestyle, not just by talking about it, but by doing that. And a healthy lifestyle, again, guys, I think we've hit it like a million times this podcast already, but that does not mean what so many people think it to mean, right? It means living a healthy lifestyle in a balanced, sustainable way that improves every aspect of your life. It doesn't stress you out or take away from your life there. If anything, it should improve it, right? So anyways, cool. Well, I love that. Anything else? So planning, right? Planning, preparation, like I think that's the biggest piece, right? When you can be intentional, if you can be intentional with living a healthy lifestyle and everything that entails, does that mean you're going to be perfect? No. But if you can do it the majority of the time, right, then you're going to get so much out of life for doing it, right? So Any other habits? Is there any habits that you, so obviously you weren't doing that before that, but were there any other habits that you weren't doing before that, and now that you're doing that, maybe on the workout side of it? I mean, you were always pretty active with workouts, but we've definitely probably put a lot more emphasis in strength training, over the last couple of years than maybe we were doing before, right? Because remind me, like, before we started working together, what were you kind of doing from a workout standpoint, compared to now?
Well, previously, like I had been a triathlete doing the mini sprint and Olympic triathlon. So swimming, biking, running. And that's where a lot of my workout friends have come from, training for those events. They're just fun. And I'm, again, easygoing. So I was never, the first in the race, but it was always fun. So we switched it up, because I think I was still swimming. Swimming's my fun sport that I do. Um, and so we started a lot of more weight training, which I'd done some, like aerobics classes and classes at the gym. But then with the pandemic, not the pandemic, yeah, the pandemic and things happening, the gym was closing more. I wasn't able to get to it, or it was just, machines were gone. So a lot of individual weights that I could have at home, doing things independently on my mat or outside. And that just proved and showed me and my kids, hey, we can still, move our bodies, even though, we can't be with our friends or at in the environment we want to be, but we can still, and they enjoyed that as well as I did, this, to sprint around the block and then try to do push-ups or sit-ups, or I had to have some dumbbells, or like gallon jugs of water. We just show yourself like, hey, if you want to get it done, there's a way. I have
Where there's a will, there's a way.
the chicken feed is 50 pounds, so get a bag of chicken feed and see how many can
Hey,
take that.
where there's a will, there's a way, right? When it comes to being active and moving our body every day, or when it comes to going to the restaurant and reminding yourself that, hey, it's not hard to eat healthy when you go out to eat. It's hard to make the healthy decision when you go out to eat, right? So it's more of just, I mean, again, I say mindset all the time, but it's like so much of this is mindset. I mean, it's your mindset with nutrition, with fitness, with the journey, with just everything that kind of goes into what it means to live a healthy lifestyle. And I think over the last 2 years and as you go forward, I mean, there's so much that you've learned and there's so much awareness that has been built, but you're just getting started, right? I mean, we're literally combating, like if I compare the last 2 years versus the previous however many, right? Like you're just getting started, and this is the foundation for you that you've built now, right? To just continue to progress. I totally forgot about the sprint tries and whatnot. I would love to see performance and sprint tries now, like especially if we think about like over this next year and setting a performance-based goal, eating at maintenance calories. That'd be really cool, right? Because again, it's like if you can have, we've talked about it, if you can have a performance-based goal that you're working on, right? That's automatically going to make you more consistent with your nutrition and fitness without having to make the sole purpose of you doing that on weight loss or on your body composition or on your aesthetics, right? So
Yeah, maybe that'll be my next goal, to get back on. I haven't done a try in now probably 5 years or so. But I miss it. I mean, they're coming back. Things are opening back up, so there are events happening. So that would probably be fun if I can get a group of friends, because that's kind of my workout family does that. So
absolutely. No, I think it'd be cool. Maybe we just have set up what that next goal might be. But yeah, I mean, that coupled with like the nutrition and the sleep and like the supplemental strength training for the endurance work that you're going to be doing, like just being able to, again, like if we think about the education, the tools, the skill set, the confidence that's been built over the last 2 years, getting the confidence in all of those pillars of health, aesthetics, and performance, right? And kind of understanding how to work towards each one of those goals without compromising one or the other. So anyways, we're getting off on a tangent here. So I'll bring it back. But Amy, any final thoughts that you have for the listeners here? Just any other nuggets, any other takeaways, anything else that you want to share with them? Any final piece of advice from an iCoach graduate that you'd give the listeners here?
Just be consistent and open-minded. Go through the brick walls, because you'll hit one. You might hit a plateau. I've hit many, and just keep moving forward. Just trying. I think your wife said it best. Like when I do listen to my coach, who is my husband, she said, I do see, and feel better results. And me too. When I did what you were telling me to, and got out of, got it in my head, just do it. I was, oh, okay, yeah, now it's working,
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, it's the same thing for me, right? I mean, it's the same thing for all of us, right? Because at the end of the day, right, like once you know what to do, it's a whole nother level to actually do it, right? And then from there, there's a whole nother level of actually doing it consistently. And then there's a whole nother level of actually doing it consistently for long enough to get the results that you want. Right. So it's just one level after the next. And that's why I think the big thing to wrap this up here is that you have to be ready to change. If you're going to come and you're going to invest in yourself and hire a coach and work one-on-one with the coach, like you better be ready to change. Because if not, you're just going to need to be okay with the fact that it's going to take some time for your coach to help you become ready and to see the value in, essentially putting in the work that it takes to get those results. But, there's so many people that I start working with, and it takes 3, 6, 9, a year or longer before they're actually ready to change. And maybe some people could look at that as a negative thing, but I actually look at it as a positive thing. So it's like, I really don't care how fast you change. All I care is that you actually change, right? And you actually sustain these results for the rest of your life. You actually, get the education and the tools and develop the mindset that you need to live a healthy lifestyle for the rest of your life. And as long as that happens, whether it happens in 1, 3, 5, I just did a podcast with a client I worked with for the last 7 years. I don't care how long it takes. I don't care how long it takes. I just want to, you can do this. Anybody that's listening, it's like, you can do this. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing that's preventing you from living a healthy lifestyle. There's nothing that's preventing you from feeling your best, looking your best, performing your best. The only thing that's preventing you from doing it is, for those of you watching YouTube right now, this right here, in between your ears, right? You're your own worst critic. You're your own worst enemy. We all self-sabotage ourselves, right? And this is where sometimes working one-on-one with a coach can also help too, is just being able to have, these conversations and talk through some of these things, and, realize that, okay, I need to stop beating myself up. I need to give myself some grace. Or other times, all right, yeah, I need to step it up. I'm really not following through with the things I say I'm going to do, or whatever. Right. But I think that's where a lot of that balance can kind of start to come in for you to be able to really play the long game there. So anyways, Amy, thank you so much for taking the time today for doing this, especially this round 2, take 2. Really appreciate it.